Hi and good day everyone. I'm Simon Dawson, Senior Lecturer at Cardiff Metropolitan University. Welcome to my short interviews with industry specialists where I ask how they got into their field of work, their essential skills that they use and any activities and advice that they can offer for students during their studies and how they enter the industry in the first place. So today I'm joined by Louise Nicholls, the Managing Director for Suseco and Vice Chair for IEMA, which is the Institute of Environmental Management and Awareness. So Louise, welcome and thank you for talking to me today.
It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you. So first of all, I'd just like you, if you could explain a little bit about your role of what you do, please.
Yeah, so I run an organisation called Suseco, and we kind of do four things. One aspect is around executive education, and I tutor for Cambridge Institute of Sustainable Leadership, and I do a bit of work with London School of Economics and with the Ethical Trading Initiative. And that's really about helping executives to get really excited about sustainability and human rights. I then also do some work with businesses who just want to bring their sustainability strategy to life, and we work on developing their policy and their strategy and their implementation plan. And then I do some very specific work with organisations, like I've just done some work with the World Bank, where they're wanting to look at how they could better utilise their investments to really stimulate addressing child labour and cocoa. And then the last bit is I work on some advisory boards like AstraZeneca.
Wow. So how did you get into this line of work in the first place?
Well, I did a food degree, which is why I'm so pleased to be talking to yourselves today. So I did a food science and technology degree at Nottingham. And in my second year, I went and worked for Marks and Spencer's doing an industrial placement, and was lucky they offered me the chance to come back as a graduate. And I came back, and for 8 years I worked in a whole range of different departments, doing product development, and really loved it. And then I had the opportunity, because I'd had a child, to take a career break where I had to work a certain number of weeks a year in different departments. And I came back and I worked in HR, which was really interesting. And then I came back and I helped the IT team with an IT integration project. And then when it came back to the third year, they said to me, "Oh, why don't you just come back to work? You're not very good at taking this long career break. Come back." And I came back and set up the kind of Marks and Spencer approach to think about ethical sourcing. And then that really grew into being about raw material sourcing. And then I ended up looking after the packaging team, because that's really just another form of raw material. And then towards the latter part of Marks and Spencer's, I looked after corporate human rights as well as food sustainability. So the big opportunity that comes with food, not only is it something that the world will always need food, but I think what you get is this amazing opportunity to understand end-to-end supply chains, because, you know, unlike fashion, people inherently want to know what's in a product. So they really want to know where those raw materials come from. And so in my case, I got to travel to over 40 countries around the world, met with tribal chiefs, and you're just the most amazing experiences that come with understanding food.
So out of all these different countries then that you've been to, which are the ones that really stand out in your mind?
Well, for me, probably it's Africa, you know, just because it's a really amazing landscape. I was lucky enough to go to places like Kenya and Senegal, where the wild animals walk through, along with where the flower farms and the green beans and tea and coffee come from. So, yeah, it's hard not to pinch yourself and think, what an amazing experience.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So in your current line of work, what do you find are the greatest challenges at the moment?
So a lot of the work at the moment, I'm working with people who are executives in different industries. And the hard part is trying to get people to think much more systemically about their actions and to understand the impacts of the way that their business and organization operates. So it's helping people to think in that big picture way about how interconnected the environment is with food safety, with thinking about human rights. And seeing that bigger picture. And we can see that at the moment, can't we, with COVID, you know, the understanding that, you know, the reality of the way that humans have encroached into nature and that linked to kind of swine flu, meaning that there was a lot less pigs in China, and people eating alternative meat sources. So there you are, you've already linked kind of deforestation, poverty, food safety, and we've seen how it's played out in that not everybody gets equal access to healthcare, not everyone's got the same security of jobs. So it's just being able to see some of that bigger picture and then helping businesses to think about how they can really impact it. And that comes down to understanding things like materiality, and understanding from a human rights point of view, the priority human rights to focus on, so we avoid talking about greenwash.
Oh yes, yeah. It's quite interesting because I don't think a lot of people realise the complexity of the food supply chain, and even like a small company, when they're buying ingredients, they've got to come from somewhere, and the ingredients that make up those have to come from somewhere as well. And when you take a step back and look at it, and where all these companies have come from, and where all these raw materials have come from, it's quite amazing the complexity of the food supply chain.
Yeah, I mean, working for a retailer, being able to think about it, you've got 32 million customers that you were buying from, kind of 3,000 suppliers, 10,000 farms, hundreds of thousands of smallholders, and that every day the decisions that the food team were making could impact 2 million people's lives, just in the supply chain. And when you start to get people thinking like that, every day you can make a good or a bad decision. And the whole idea of the sustainability team is to help people make more of good decisions.
Mm-hmm. God, it's amazing. Until you start putting some numbers and figures behind things, you don't realise the complexity of all of this.
Yeah.
So what kind of essential skills then do you use on a regular basis that help with your job? So
I think one of the biggest skills that you should take forward is to enjoy loving to learn new things, because as we know, everything is changing, and the pace at which it's changing is getting faster and faster. So that being interested, being keen to learn is really, really key. And I think often step change innovation comes because we're willing to take that time to learn about something new, have a conversation with somebody who we don't normally have a conversation with, and then coalesce that idea and champion that idea and be prepared to pilot it. And even if that doesn't work out the first time, if you think there's something behind that idea, to champion it a bit further. So I think that ability to be interested in innovation is really key. I think the second skill that's so key is networking, because if you think about it, the more you can amplify the people you know, again, the more idea you've got, more chance you've got of great new ideas, and also the more chance you have of finding other people to collaborate with to push those ideas forward. So network, and be prepared to collaborate. I think that's really key. And I think the other thing that's really important is to be an authentic leader, to really align kind of what you do as a job with your own personal values, because when you do that, when those things are in harmony, that's when you produce your best work, and when you feel most inspired and most happy and motivated.
Oh, fantastic. So if you're looking at current students, current graduates, what would be your kind of top tips regarding what to put on their CV, cover letters, in order to get their foot in the door of a first interview?
So I mean, what we're looking for on a CV is we're looking to see somebody who's matching what they're saying in the interview with actually the evidence behind it. So we're looking for a CV that reflects somebody who's interested and motivated. So, trying to get a bit of industry work experience is really important. Having some volunteering on there that, again, highlights the kind of skills you're really interested in, that can be very, very useful. And then thinking in the cover letter, really talking about why do you want this job, and why do you have the skills that are right for this job. And again, what I'm always looking for is to see that somebody's really not just read the job description, but gone and found out something about the company and talks about that with real interest and passion.
Oh, fantastic. So doing things like an internship or industry placements is very important then.
Yeah, I think so. I think also it's really hard to know whether or not you're going to enjoy that job, you know, particularly in the food industry. Are you going to enjoy working in a food factory? Are you going to enjoy working in a laboratory? Will you enjoy getting out and talking with customers and giving presentations and being very familiar with the kind of sales figures? You've got to work out which one of those aspects is the bit that really inspires you, or maybe you're much keener being an auditor, but you're only going to know that if you go and give things a try.
Great. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And Louise, is there anything else that you'd like to give? Any sort of like final advice for students?
No, I just think you've picked the best university course ever. And all I can say is, for me, the food industry has been a fantastic career, and I wish you well.
Fantastic. Louise, it's been great talking to you today. I think you've offered some really good and useful advice for all of those that are coming into the industry. So thank you, take care, and I hope to hear from you again soon.
Thanks, it's been a pleasure.
Fantastic.